Hello vinyl community, this is Randy and this is in a response to Norman Maslov's 25 Perfect Albums, which he got the idea from a Tales from the Crate YouTube video. And this is going to be my take on it. 25 perfect albums, not necessarily my favorite albums, but 25 albums I think are perfect and that maybe I haven't shown so far, or maybe I don't have the CD. I only have the CD. That might be why I'm showing it too. But I'm going to start off with, now the most perfect album I think is Astral Weeks by Van Morrison. It's also my favorite album of all time. And since I've already shown that, I'm going to show Van Morrison's Beat and Fleece. Another one of his kind of mystical albums that's got some perfect songs like Fair Play and Bulbs, Cul-de-sac. Really gets you in that mystical mood. Who Was That Masked Man? And of course Lyndon Arden stole the highlights where he sings in that falsetto. And why did put his fingers through the glass? We'll never know. Also, we're listening to music from Miller's Crossing, which isn't the perfect album, but it's just what's in the background. Movie by Coen Brothers. Okay, the next album I'm going to show is, even though I think my two favorite Graham Parker albums are his first two, I'm going to show another perfect album, Squeezing Out Sparks by Graham Parker. With Protection, Don't Get Excited, Local Girls, which is probably the most famous track off here, Discovering Japan. A really strong album by Graham Parker that produced by Jack Nitzsche, but really good album. Perfect album, should I say. Also, my favorite Rod Stewart album is Every Picture Tells a Story, but I'll probably be showing that other times, so I'm going to show Gasoline Alley, which I think is another perfect album of his. That's, I'm going to have to get my glasses on here. Where he sings Gasoline Alley, which is probably the most famous song here, the title track. My Way of Giving, Only a Hobo. He does a great version of the Dylan song. And You're My Girl, Lady Day, which one of his own. Cut Across Shorty, I really love his version of that. He also does Country Comfort, which some people may be familiar with the Elton John version. Actually, I think I like Rod's version better. Next one I'm going to show is Hunky Dory. Lights bother me here. By David Bowie, my favorite Bowie album. With Life on Mars, one of my favorite songs is. Changes has probably gotten a lot of airplay in the US anyway. Song for Bob Dylan, Queen Bitch. 8-line poem. I think all the songs are really good on this album, and it's, I think, his strongest. Next one I'm going to show is a newer one, The Shins, Shoots Too Narrow, which I think is their strongest album, though a lot of people like their debut the most, but this one you need to take a listen to Saint Simon, and the instrumental work on that is beautiful, and the singing is beautiful on that song. Kissing the Lipless, So Says I, and Young Pilgrims I think are all great tracks, and every track on it is good. That's why it's perfect. Next artist I'm going to show is Steve Young, and the album No Place to Fall. For those not familiar with Steve Young, not the quarterback for the 49ers, but he wrote Seven Bridges Road, which the Eagles recorded, and he also wrote Lonesome, Ornery, and Mean, which Waylon Jennings recorded. But this album, No Place to Fall, is a Townes Van Zandt song, but I actually think that he does the definitive job on that song. Really beautiful. He also does a couple of the songs that were on previous albums, such as Seven Bridges Road and Montgomery in the Rain, and he kind of works them a little different. And it's also got my favorite Steve Young song called Dreamer, which when I did see him in concert, it was in a small venue, very small venue, and I did ask him to play that song, and he actually did. So always be a favorite of mine, and unfortunately he's passed away since then. Next one I have up is Tom Waits' Small Change, which another perfect album. I mean, Tom Trobet's Blues, Four Sheets to the Wind in Copenhagen is one of my favorite songs. It's really good on that. I Wish I Was in New Orleans. The song The Piano Has Been Drinking, which he did, I think, on Fernwood Tonight, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. I think that was that one. But they were all, what the heck is this guy that's playing? If you know the show, it's kind of a made-up talk show. But I think it was Fernwood Tonight. I'm not positive. Invitation to the Blues, Small Change, Can't Wait to Get Off Work, Bad Liver and a Broken Heart. Just great, or a perfect Tom Waits album. Although he's done quite a few perfect albums, I think. And now this is the perfect pop record. That's Marshall Crenshaw's debut album. With Someday, Some Way, There She Goes Again, Rock Around in NYC, She Can't Dance, Cynical Girl, which got some radio play as well. But just a wonderful pop. I think they talked about him in the power pop, a little jangly pop, but just the perfect pop record. Marshall Crenshaw. Probably got some arguments, but the best punk record and the perfect Clash album, London Calling. That's not a bad track on here. It's got the famous London Calling. Even track not listed on here, Train in Vain, is perfect. Coca-Cola, Card Sheet, Spanish Bombs, Lost in the Supermarket, kind of a ballad like, oh, just perfect album. I've been saying that a lot, but I guess they're all supposed to be perfect. And the next one I have up is Ricky Lee Jones, self-titled album with her most famous song, Chucky's in Love, which is a great song. Young Blood, Last Chance, Texaco, Easy Money, Weasel and White Boys Cool, and the White Boys Cool, Coolsville, all of these songs. Danny's All-Star Joint. Just the perfect kind of late night, reminiscing type album to sit back and relax to. Ricky Lee Jones. I guess I'm taking the cover off it for me after this, but this Revolver is my choice for perfect Beatles album, although Rubber Soul was up there too. Even though, I mean, it's got Taxman, Eleanor Rigby, He Said, She Said, one of the best ballads, Here, There, and Everywhere. Tomorrow Never Knows, everyone likes the kind of psychedelia in that one. And as Yellow Submarine for Lionel Richie, even though he may disagree on this part. But perfect album, Revolver. Next one is one a lot of people might not be familiar with. This is Jerry Lee Lewis, who's going to play this old piano, which there isn't a lot of piano actually in that song, but it's just a wonderful country album done by Jerry Lee. That's he does songs by Ray Griff and Billy Joe Shaver and Jerry Chestnut. He doesn't do any songs by Mac Vickery, I think that's his name, on this one. But anytime you see Ray Griff, you know it's going to be a good song. He also got a Dallas Frazier song, She's Reaching for My Mind. But the song I really love is Think About It, Darling. And he's kind of does a lot of self-referencing on some of these songs, which you kind of get used to after a while. But really great country album. And I think it's a perfect country album. Who's going to play this old piano by Jerry Lee Lewis. Next one I got up is Tony Bennett. I Left My Heart in San Francisco, which is just a wonderful album by him. He also does Tender is the Night, Love for Sale, a famous song, Always Chasing Rainbows, The Best Is Yet to Come, which, you know, Frank Sinatra would do later, but I think Tony does it the best. But just a wonderful album by Tony. I think his best, actually. But he also does one with Count Basie that's very good as well. But I think this is the perfect Tony Bennett album. And the next one I have up is Jimi Hendrix Experience, Axis Bold as Love. With, you know, Up from the Skies, Got Me Floating, So Fine, Castles Made of Sand, Bold as Love, Little Wing, If Six Was Nine, Spanish Castle Magic. All these songs on here are perfect. So this is a reissue. Got a nice little Jimi Hendrix booklet. It's a really wonderful album. Jimi Hendrix Experience. And my favorite Prince album, 1999, also the perfect Prince album. I mean, when you get 3 songs in a row, if I can get it out of here, like 1999, Little Red Corvette and Delirious, which this is like a double 45 pressing with purple vinyl. That's perfect Prince album. Next one is Two Steps from the Blues with the beautiful blues crooning of Bobby Bland. Which I just love Bobby Bland's voice. Two Steps from the Blues. One of my all-time favorite songs is his version of St. James Infirmary. You have to listen to Bobby Bland singing that song. You're taken away with the beauty and the forlorn nature of him singing that song. Also, one of the most perfect ballads is Lead Me On that he does on here. But every song on this, Cry, 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 is wonderful. And this was, as he's always saying this, you have to have Two Steps from the Blues in your collection. Next one I have is Elvis Costello, This Year's Model, which was another perfect album by Elvis, although Armed Forces is probably my favorite Elvis Costello album. This one, I mean, it starts off with a bang. No Action, the drumming, and this is the first album with the Attractions. The drumming that starts off that song, No Action, and all the way through, kind of use that as Angry Young Man Best. You Belong to Me, Radio Radio, which he sang on Saturday Night Live when he wasn't supposed to. He was supposed to sing another song, but sang that song anyway. But Elvis Costello and the Attractions. This year's model. Perfect album. I had Tony Bennett, so had to have Frank Sinatra. Even though my favorite Frank Sinatra album is probably Songs for Swingin' Lovers, this is also a wonderful late night thinking about things. One guy at the end of the bar, his girl just left him, I don't know, kind of album. In the Wee Small Hours by Frank Sinatra. It's just with Nelson Riddle, Nude Indigo, Glad to Be Unhappy, Deep in a Dream. Oh, it's just a wonderful Sinatra album. One of the perfect ones, that and Songs for Swingin' Lovers. The next one I'm going to show is the Pogues, If I Should Fall from Grace with God, and no doctor can relieve me, will be buried neath the sod, where the angels won't receive me. Beautiful title track, and Bottle of Smoke, Fairy Tale of New York, which is a beautiful song that a few people said that on the VCR said they were tired of, but I love that song. Thousands Are Sailing is a beautiful song. The Lullaby of London, where Shane MacGowan is kind of at his spitting ballad-like best, I think, on a couple of those songs, and a really wonderful, perfect album. The Pogues. And my favorite Springsteen album, Born to Run. Where he'd said he was wanting to make an album like Roy Orbison when he recorded this. And his Thunder Road, 10th Avenue, there's every song on here. Born to Run, Meeting Across the River, Jungle Land. She's the One. Every song on here is a great song. And this is by far, I think, some would say Darkness on the Edge of Town, but I would personally pick Born to Run. Perfect album. This next one I'm going to pick, a lot of people would not pick this one to represent this artist, and that's Townes Van Zandt's At My Window. The reason I picked this one is, now a lot of times in the old days, record stores used to have different people that worked there that were in charge of a certain genre, or kind of like the expert in a certain genre. And they had a guy at this place called Peaches Records in Kansas City, which doesn't exist anymore. But they had a country folk guy, and I took a lot of recommendations from this guy, and he said, listen to this Townes Van Zandt album, because I think it had just come out around that time, which was 1987. And so I did, took it home, listened to it, and then just said, and tossed it aside. And like a couple years later, I think I was making some kind of mixtape, and I guess I thought a song on here, I think it was the Catfish song, fit. So I got this album out, listened to that song, and I go, that is a really good song. And then I went and listened to it again and again and again until this became one of my favorite Townes Van Zandt songs. Snowing on Rattan, At My Window, For the Sake of the Song, Ain't Leaving Your Love. All these songs are great on this album. And, you know, I think some of his early ones are maybe a throwaway tune on here, but I don't think there is a throwaway tune on this album here. perfect Bob Dylan album is Blood on the Tracks, but this is also a perfect album as well. Highway 61 Revisited with Like a Rolling Stone, one of the best rock songs ever. And just like Tom Thumb's Blues, I just like the instrumentation on that song and how it develops, and the singing on that one. It's one of my favorite Dylan songs as well. Ballad of a Thin Man, I love that song. And Queen Jane Approximately, Desolation Row, every song on here is great. Even though I think Blood on the Tracks is the best, this is also perfect. Highway 61 Revisited, as well as Blonde on Blonde. Well, some people think there's a track that shouldn't be on Blonde, but that's another story. Next one, I can get out of here. After the Gold Rush, Neil Young. Some lighting problems today. But my favorite Neil Young album, with After the Gold Rush, the title track, I Believe in You, Cripple Creek Ferry, Don't Let It Bring You Down, Southern Man, and the beautiful Only Love Can Break a Heart. Really beautiful album by Neil Young, and I think his best. And maybe the greatest rock and roll album of all time, I think. The Who, Who's Next. With every song on here is great. Bob O'Reilly, Won't Get Fooled Again. I mean, Behind Blue Eyes, not just all good songs, all great songs. Song Is Over, Love Ain't for Keeping, Bargain, Getting in Tune, and the best John Entwistle song, My Wife. So just the perfect rock and roll album. Just something, you know, everybody has in their collection probably, but wonderful album. And my last one I'm going to show is by another favorite artist of mine. That's Chris Isaak, a self-titled album, and he has that haunting voice that's nobody really sounds like Chris Isaak, where you can kind of get up there a little bit, and it's always kind of a moody sound with You Owe Me Some Kind of Love, Heart Full of Soul, Lie to Me, Waiting for the Rain to Fall, just kind of a rainy day, forlorn, beautiful album, and perfect. Chris Isaak. And that's my submission.